By the time I was 19 years old, I took over my family's property development company and I built it into a multi-eight-figure company, cracking over $100,000 per month at the moment. Often what slows people up to just keep moving is, what if I fail? What if you fail? And if you can make the decision to love yourself regardless, then you could fail every single day.
This is the Content Capitalist Podcast. We talk to business owners who've used video to grow their businesses to $1 million a year or more. How they did it, what worked, what didn't. Welcome to the Content Capitalists with your host, Ken Okazaki.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Content Capitalist Podcast, where I have conversations with people who are crushing it with content creation. And today I've got somebody with me. Her name is Samantha. And the reason I invited her to the show is because she kept showing up on my feed, but not just showing up at a level that I think is a great example for a lot of people and that people should be following. So I had to have her on the show. We were just talking about a second earlier. Samantha, welcome to the Content Capitalist Podcast.
Thank you so much, Ken. I'm so happy and excited to be here.
Perfect. So, Samantha, right now we've got a whole bunch of people listening, and they might be listening to just the audio, or they might be watching this on YouTube and they can see you. But I just want to describe what I'm seeing. Like right now, you've got beautiful white all over. You got a white dress, or I'm not sure if it's a blouse or a dress because I can't see further down than your shoulders. And you've got a statue of David. You've got roses behind you. Everything here, from your hair to your jewelry to your outfit to your smile, is on point with your brand. And that's what I was seeing everywhere on social media. So I just want to describe that in case you're only hearing the audio. Samantha, give us a quick spiel. Who do you help? How do you help them? What is it that you do?
Yeah, thank you, Ken. I help 6, 7, and 8-figure coaches, experts, and consultants to scale their empire with a luxury offer by being their authentic self. So my biggest point of difference is I'm helping people to build that empire from the inside out and to really shift out of imposter. So often before they come to see me, they're selling 3K, 5K, 10K. I help them to really stand in their brilliance and their unique method and then start selling at 30K, 50K, and 100K, which enables them to get back their fun, their freedom, their fulfillment, that ideal lifestyle, and actually enjoy the process more because they get to be more of their self through their luxury business and branding model.
I love that. I think that is an obstacle a lot of people face. That they go in there just kind of because they're a beginner, right? Because everybody starts from zero at some point, right? You go in there begging and just hoping for somebody to give you $1, and that's but then making that hurdle to actually asking for what it's worth or actually giving people what they really want and charging what they're willing to pay for that. Now, is it okay with you right now if we rewind a little bit to before you kind of got to where you are? You're kind of a big deal inside your Facebook group. I think you're running some ads. You're doing a lot of things right and getting a lot of people to invest in working with you. But before you got into coaching slash teaching slash educating, what were you doing?
I have been an entrepreneur since I was 14 years old. I started with importing jewelry and clothing from Bali for 30 cents and charging $30 and going to markets. And then by the time I was 19 years old, I took over my family's property development company and I built it into a multi-eight-figure company in a few years and became an award-winning entrepreneur. In that journey, I discovered my passion for philanthropy and became a national ambassador for a mental health research institute. But at the end of the day, even though I had a great deal of success, I felt empty inside. So after that, at about 22 years old, I started to travel the world, traveled to over 20 different countries, learning from the leading authorities in neuroscience, shamanism, and sacred sexuality. And I wanted to understand, well, how can we be successful, wealthy leaders, but actually have fulfillment and meaning inside? And that's when I really began to discover that there's this common thread for successful people in that they're looking to the outside world to fill them up and to find that love, that validation, and that approval. And so I changed that first within myself, and then came up with this unique methodology to bring together spirituality and business so that we can do big and amazing things in this world, but actually be happy and fulfilled along the way as well.
Wow, that's amazing. Such a young age, 14 years old, jumping into what you take. So, as an entrepreneur at 14, you're doing jewelry. that is so interesting. I started a couple years later. I left home when I was 17. I went to India, and I'm from Japan, by the way, and I grew up in Japan, but it just seemed like the wildest, craziest thing to do. And that was my first business too, was buying and selling jewelry off the streets of Mumbai, and then shipping it back to Japan, having my friends sell it for me. So that, as you said, that I was like, wait a sec, that sounds really familiar. Uh, and yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting. Obviously, there's taking over your parents' business. That must have been a big accelerator in your entrepreneurial growth too, because what age was that you took that over?
I was 19 years old then.
Wow, wow. So I did not do that because my parents aren't in real estate, but that's it's great. It's absolute. And if you were 19 then that must have been really an opportune time with the Australian market going up the way it has been going, right?
Yeah, it
Wow,
was the
wow.
global financial crises that
So
soon
it's
happened
before or
after that.
after? Oh, so you came in at a
Yeah,
bad time.
I came in at a bad
Or
time and kind of figured out a way. Well, how can you turn like recessions into opportunities as businesses? And so it was actually really fun. I loved a challenge.
mm, well, that's a good quality to have, to love challenges. So tell me about how you first started creating content. What gave you the idea? Was it after going to an event, a seminar, or just watching the people that you listen to and their content, thinking, "Hey, I should do that too." What was that triggered you to start doing this?
If you're somebody like me where you didn't have a big marketing budget, you didn't have a track record, nobody knew who I was. All I had was a heart, a passion, a big vision, and a deep care to want to help a lot of people. So I had to start going, okay, how can I market myself if I don't have a big marketing budget and I don't have a track record or experience? And I realized, well, I have to be the marketing, I have to be it. So for me, it just was really um, learning about personal branding strategy and to recognize, well, I need to be the asset. So, how can I build a captivating story about who I am? And how can I create a captivating story about like building a story around a business? And so, literally, I got this from just being the number one person in my business studies class at school and kind of researching things. And I've done no university degrees, I've done nothing. Literally, it was like, understanding about personal branding and then just researching the shit out of it. I went to an entrepreneurship school and I learned a little bit more about that. And I realized that, like, how do these people get known, get seen, and get remembered online? And I realized the way that they do is at a personal brand, and the way that then they express that personal brand is content. So for me, it was very organic, and it was about me tapping into something that didn't cost me any money to really start to monetize it.
Mhm. That's amazing. And was there a certain source, like a person who you looked up to, or a book or a course or something that kind of triggered that spark in you?
Over time, it became the Key Person of Influence Institute. So their book, Key Person of Influence. But at the beginning, it was probably more like the Oprahs, the Beyoncés, the inspiring people that I would watch on YouTube, that I would just go, wow, there's something special about them. And I just learned from how they had a really impactful message that enrolled people into a vision of the future. And so my earliest memories as a little girl is I used to spend time under the big trees and I would write songs and poems, and I was just captivated by a vision. And that's what drew me to these people. They inspired me and I wanted to be like them. And then over time, it was when I reached out to the people that actually had frameworks around that. And the biggest one would have been that Key Person of Influence book.
That's great. That's great. And when you started creating this content of yourself and presenting it to the world, uh, did you have what a lot of people experience, which is imposter syndrome? Did that hit you at all?
Yeah, 100%. It was more the fear to be seen. If it was more afraid that, like, inside I wasn't enough, or, do I know enough? Will people pay me? Will people attack me online? I was incredibly
And
afraid to
probably
be
all of the
seen.
above happen, right? To some degree.
Yeah.
And once it does happen, then all of a sudden it's less scary, right? It's just like, oh, okay, that's the
Yeah.
thought of it happening. of something happening that you never experienced before, I think is way worse than it actually happening in most of the case. I don't know about you. That's how I've experienced it.
Yeah, the mind likes to come up with, oh God, I can't survive the experience. But once you prepare to survive it, which is what I did, well, if somebody attacks me, how will I respond? If somebody's doing this, how am I going to respond? And that enabled me to just keep putting myself out there. But definitely that imposter syndrome meant that I didn't really take up space. I didn't powerfully communicate who I was, my client results. And I was afraid, well, if I start sharing content, what if people take me the wrong way, misunderstand me? And I can tell you all that happened. Every single one of those things happened. But actually, the best thing that came from that is a more powerful level of self approval and self love. Because all that fear of where I was afraid to be seen showed me all the places inside of myself that I wasn't loving and approving me. And as soon as I began to love and approve of those parts, I could show up online and let them parts of me be seen, and know that it wasn't up to others to understand them, love them, approve them. That power was within my own hands.
Amazing, amazing. And when you started, like, and I want to stay in this period of your entrepreneurial growth for a little bit longer. So you put out some content, facing a bit of imposter syndrome, but you did it anyway. What were you selling at the time, and what was the price point, like the commitment you're asking people to take to work with you?
I really started with Facebook challenges. So it was a free Facebook challenge, which meant that the imposter wasn't so high. And I was selling really more per hour with my services at $500 per hour, getting people into a free Facebook challenge over 3 days and live streaming into that for 1 hour per day. What was great about that is that there wasn't live people there watching me because it was just me live streaming in. And so as my fears came up, it was probably less daunting because I was more in control of the process.
So you're putting out free content, inviting people to come to a free challenge, and they come into a group, and then those people who are more interested may or may not pay $500 per hour for your coaching services. Is that right? So that's
Yeah, that's
version
right.
one of your journey. That's really cool. And a lot of people, I think they make this. Do you know what a Rube Goldberg machine is?
No.
Rube Goldberg. So you've probably seen these TV shows, or maybe documentary, or I don't, or at least pictures where, like, you put a marble on a slide and it goes down and knocks over a block that's gonna, turn on a switch that's gonna, make this little, thing go around in a circle. And one thing happens. A lot of people think that their coaching business or their education business has to be like that. They need to have this 500 part, contraption that's gonna bring the client in the door. Whereas you, it's just like, let's just go live, invite people to a group, and people pay me per hour. And it's that simple. A lot of people overcomplicate it. Have you seen that in your communities, that people overcomplicate things?
100%. One of the biggest ways they overcomplicate it is having a million offers that don't fix anything their client really wants solved. Yeah,
Yes.
it is
Yes.
really simple, and the most simplistic sales and marketing pipelines are the ones that convert. So yeah, 100% see that.
That's so cool. Now, after this, at any point, did you ever feel like you got over imposter syndrome, or is this something that still kind of comes up from time to time, even where you're at right now?
Yeah, I definitely think that every stage brings a new level of imposter. At that point, it was showing up on a live stream. The next point, it was selling, a $5,000 offer. The next point, it was delivering my offer into groups. So I think that every single next level of growth is going to bring a new level of imposter, because imposters really, can I trust myself to fully show up in this experience, and no matter what the result is, still love and approve of myself? And if you can make that decision to not attach your worth to the result of the next stage you're stepping onto, then imposter syndrome won't be there, because it's just the reminder to love yourself regardless of an outcome.
The way you describe that is so elegant. I have a feeling that that's a part of what you coach people on. Am I right? Yeah, you really got
Yes,
this part
I
down.
wrote a book about it. I've got a best-selling book on it. Yeah, it's a big part. Yeah, because everybody's taking big steps of growth in my world, and often what slows people up to just keep moving is, what if I fail? What if you fail? And if you can make the decision to love yourself regardless, then you could fail every single day.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. And right now, you've got quite a good thing going. what's working best for you right now as far as content creation strategy and deployment? I know some people, they look for putting everything around a podcast and repurposing short content from there. Some people are going after, creating, or actually not actually creating any content as well at all, and having their team just capture their coaching calls and the live events. Some people, do TikTok dances and and smile and lip sync, right? What is it for you that's working? Because I think there's 100 correct solutions, but I want to know your story.
Thank you. This is a big question. I've definitely had the podcast, the books, done the snippets from the cores, and all of that. Um, for me, my content comes from wanting to have the conversation that no one else is having, and I I'm
Mm,
wanting to, like, I use my journaling practice and my meditation practice for my content. Because for me, this is the content that is the most vulnerable and most direct
mhm,
from my heart, that's speaking to what I feel the clients need today. So I used to do a lot where I would repurpose content, from all those things, but that actually was kind of sounding like how everybody else sounds in the market. And so what I like to do instead is, in my journaling practice or my meditation for either the week or 2 weeks, it's like, what is the most present conversation that I want to have with my audience today? And I guess you could say that's a little bit more soulful. I choose to then express that in whatever way is shown to me in my meditation
mhm,
practice, actually. So sometimes it's dance, sometimes I see videos and movies coming together. Um,
mhm,
for me, business and content is actually art, and every
mhm,
single person who's listening is a unique being who has a unique set of eyes and a unique soul. And when you can learn to see it and value it, and to trust that inner voice of your soul of what you want to express your art out into the world, for some it's poetry and it's words, for others it's
mhm,
video, for others it's imagery. But the only way you can stand out and be different is to actually start trusting what's the most honest truth you actually would love to be sharing, not what's the message that's going to sell the most. What's the message that I see all the other industry experts doing? If you copy them, when people are looking at your content, they're only going to think about Homozy or whoever. The biggest thing right now is the Homozy videos. So,
the
how
flavor
about
of the
you?
month, right?
Right? Like, why don't you become a homozy? Become the trendsetter and stop setting the trend. Like, become the trendsetter and stop following the trends, because people feel somebody else's energetic signature when you copy somebody else. So, if you were to be brave and bold and be okay with being misunderstood, standing out and be different, like, how would you like, what do you want to be talking about? What are the aspects of your personality you hold back and that you just want to start owning more? Um,
Mhm.
and how can you start to actually express that in creative ways, and do something different, and then you'll become the Hormozy of your niche
Yeah.
and your industry.
So I'm taking this all in and I'm thinking to myself, okay, there are some things that I might talk about if I didn't care what people, like not sorry, the word care, I'm going to put that aside, but if I was if I gave zero f's about how people perceive me, I'd talk about probably a lot of things that personally I'm a little bit scared to put out there, because like I don't know how people are going to take it and I don't know how that relates to business. So you said something interesting. You said you need to learn to trust yourself. How do you learn to trust yourself to take these kind of uh, off the beaten path routes to content creation?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. You create a luxury branding identity, and you make sure that the stories and the thought leader topics that you're wanting to share are an expression of your brand values and the core message of what you're wishing to talk about and stand for as a brand. So everything always comes back to, how is this relevant for our brand, our movement, the vision of the world we are standing for, and our client? And you make sure that it always relates back to that. Once you've got that luxury brand structure, your core messages and your values, then you're always linking it back to that and making sure that it's super relevant. The truth is, and everybody can write this down, people don't buy what you do. There's a million business coaches, a million sales coaches. People buy who you are. So they want to know, who are you as a person? What do you care about? And those stories are going to build relationships. Most often, people don't buy from logic, they buy from emotion. People have paid me 30, 50, $100,000, and it's literally just a 1 minute voice note because what they resonated to is they're like, I see myself in you. So we often think I need to convince the audience, I need to educate them, I need to give them all this logical information. But the truth is people don't make choices from logic, they justify it with it. First, they want to know, do I like you? So you sharing these very personal, vulnerable parts of yourself gets them to like you. Then the next step of your sales process is get them in a masterclass, get them in the event, get them on the next step to then educate them that yes, you also have a method that works. But that's actually step two. Most people make the mistake of flipping that.
Mm. I love that, and that advice totally works. But I'm still stuck on this one thing. How do I learn to trust myself more with the content that's not that I might be a little bit afraid to put out? And I'm saying this not just for me, but I think there's a lot of people out there who have things they want to talk about. Maybe they're afraid that they're going to get canceled, or that all their friends are going to not like them anymore, or something. It's too personal and too vulnerable that might just not be appropriate for social media. So to put that out there, you have to have a lot of confidence, right? So how do we learn to trust ourselves to that level where we can really be our genuine true self without the filters, figurative and literal, filters on video, for example?
I would say first start with your paying clients. So, first start by sharing one story with a paying client, the people that already do have that trust with you. Say, look, I want to try something today. I want to share something that's on my heart that I like is an expression of my brand. And after then, say, how did that feel? Can I get some feedback? How do you think people would respond if I start putting a tiny bit of this out? And once you get that feedback, you can start to just test with your non paying clients and just test sharing one story. Notice the response. For me, once you do test it, you don't want all your content to become it, just like 20% of your content to become it. So then start testing it and then just test it once, see the response, and then start seeing if you can move towards 20 to 25% of your content. That for me, always those posts are the ones that get way more engagement, and that's what actually makes people move and then buy. So test and see for yourself how your audience engages. Otherwise, work with a professional to create that strategy, like Ken.
Thank you for that. Well, that's amazing. And I think so few people understand. Too few people understand the value of testing and measuring, and that's what we call auditing. We with our clients, we religiously look every single month. And I'm this is about you, but I just want to share one thing that's been working really well for us. And a lot of people, they hear Gary Vee and everybody saying like, you do you, like be yourself. Everybody else is taken. These are all cliche things. But when people sit down and they create content, they have a hard time understanding, how do I lean into being myself when the only videos that I've ever seen are of other people. So we got to start by copying, which is okay. But what I think needs to happen is you need to just put out whatever you want. It doesn't matter in the beginning if it's crap. You got to just start. But then there's the auditing process. We look at the bottom 10% of the performers and we find the common patterns. And we look at the top 10% of the performers and we find the common patterns. And we stop doing what's not working and do more what is working. For example, some of my clients, we found that when they look right at the camera, people watch for longer. And we find that when they're not looking at the camera, they don't hang around. And I thought that was like a universal thing until I started auditing all my other clients. And I found there are other ones that when they look right at the camera, people don't watch. Maybe their eyes are scary, but when they look off camera, like it's an interview, like this, then people engage. It's less confrontational, or maybe it's more of a conversational tone. And I'm finding that every creator for every platform has a different profile for what they should be doing or not be doing. And that's what people don't get. They think it's like somebody posts some statistic and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, we all need to do this. And then they don't understand what are the underlying reasons why that's working for that person. Maybe Alex Hormozy, that content does work well for him because he has a very binary view on everything. This is the correct way and this is the incorrect way. This is the formula and everything else doesn't work. That's his type of view on the world, which works for him. But like, for example, I think everything is very fluid and spiritual and it's about intuition, which wouldn't fit. Like if you started making those kind of videos, then people would be like, what are you doing, Samantha? That's not who I know. So I just wanted to add that in there as far as how to lean into who you are is test, 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 and just put out a bunch of stuff. Oh wow.
Thank
And
you.
I could
Yeah,
keep going
thanks so much
forever,
for
but
sharing.
I don't want to spend too much time from you. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Why do you have and why do we have a nude statue right over your left shoulder? And like, is there some significance to this?
Yeah, I think it's about, I help people to shift out of a coaching business and building something that's going to live beyond them, a legacy, an empire. And so I have the statues of different people in time who we have statues of them. They created something that lived on beyond them. And so for people, that might be their voice and their message and their book. It could be a TED talk. It's the wisdom inside of themselves that shapes this world beyond their life. And that's what this is representing here, is about what is the wisdom and the intellectual property inside of yourself that you can actually package up and monetize so it influences the world beyond your living years.
Amazing, amazing. And I think that was how many years ago was the original one made? It must have been like the 1400s, was it? Like
Yeah.
700
Oh,
years,
goodness.
700, 800 years ago,
Yeah.
maybe. I don't know my history
Yeah.
well enough, but I'm imagining it's like that. It sounds old enough.
Yeah.
All right. So here's something that's interesting. Um, when it comes to like actual video content creation, and you've probably seen this, the TikTok format, and I'm gonna call it TikTok format because it got popular on TikTok, and then now it's Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, and everybody is kind of jumping on the bandwagon. That is something that has overtaken all other forms of video consumption by like 3 times higher than the next thing down. And is this something that you adopted pretty quickly on? Were you one of like the early adopters, would you say, or was that something that kind of you saw everybody else doing it and it was working, and then you kind of said, okay, maybe we should try it? What was that for you?
I was a late adopter, saw that everybody was getting on the bandwagon and saw that social media is moving in the direction of TikTok. So we just repurposed our content from Instagram over there.
Mm,
But we were a late adopter actually with that strategy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Mhm.
di- are you? And I didn't really do too much research on you on that platform. Are
Yeah.
you also doing original stuff for that, where you're using their tools and their filters and the lip syncing and I think there's a bunch of features you can use as far as like doing reactions to other people and stuff, or are you mostly repurposing right now?
Right now, I'm repurposing just because we don't have the time, and right now we're focusing just on Facebook, Instagram. Definitely next year, once I have the time, because I definitely know my brand. We get a lot of engagement with that, and I think that definitely everybody, I think that's the way that everything's headed. Right now, for us, we're trying to focus on less is more, and just focus on two main platforms until we can get a content team in place. I did have a content team, but uh, I wanted to regain my connection to myself and look at my messaging to just test that for a little bit. So for us, that will be our next move, is getting a content team on board and really focusing on TikTok. All my clients are using TikTok and they're getting amazing results on it, by definitely using all their tools and strategies there.
I think we were meant to have
Yeah.
a conversation about that a little while ago. Let me
Coming
know if you
back.
still want that conversation, and I'll walk you through what we do. And it may work out, it may not. But either way, I'd love to
Yeah.
reconnect with you on that. Now, among other people in your space, talking about coaches, consultants, uh, you know, I guess that covers a lot of course creators. What mistakes are you seeing beginners make a lot? Or let's just say across the board, even the seasoned veterans, a lot of times we make mistakes too. What are you seeing happen too often where it's like, nails on a chalkboard and you just wish this would die? What is that for you?
Okay, for me, it is that I'm seeing people copy somebody else's posts and then use that same thing. So you have everybody they're obviously all using the same business coach, and then everybody's using the same templates. And then what happens is people automatically cancel them because they've seen it a million times, that same template. Another thing I'm seeing is people also copying other people's branding and colors and not having anything that stands out and makes them unique. So although I'm spiritual and intuitive, everything that I teach and do is about having a framework, but having your authenticity and your authentic voice make it unique to you. And I think that if people keep seeing you as the same as everybody else and they already dislike those salesy posts or they dislike that same template, then your brand gets, lumped into that same thing.
Yeah, people
So I
don't get a
definitely,
chance to know you, right?
yeah. The other mistake I see is people just assuming that people want the logical buying journey. That's actually what people want, is they want to hear stories. Like, engage people with stories and actually engage them emotionally, because a logical buyer is always going to have an excuse. There's not enough time, there's not enough money. An emotional buyer is like, I want that. I want that promise, I want that dream. They just move, they take action, they pay in full. So I think that people aren't using stories and personal branding enough, and they don't have enough confidence to really do something different that's actually going to get the attention. You doing something different gets the attention. And then you can learn to keep it by telling stories.
Now, you brought up stories quite a few times. Do you have an example of a story that you shared at one point that just went way better than you expected and people were
Mm,
reacting and actually coming into your world of and learning and
mm,
becoming your customers? Is there a certain story that you'd be willing to share briefly that really
mm.
worked for you?
Yeah, 100%. I think that a lot of people really connect to my story of like having gone through sexual abuse and mental illness. And when I talk about how, although I became an award winning entrepreneur, that story for me started by not being able to get out of bed every single day and losing all hopes and dreams after getting in the top 6% of Australia. That this entrepreneurial career really started by my dad putting a desk in the corner of my room and throwing me a phone book. People kind of can't, when I tell that story, they kind of can't assimilate, oh, but you seem successful and happy and you're always joyful and you're always smiling today. And so when I share this story that that's how it started, it helps them to see that, like, I'm the same as them. Like, I have struggles and adversities and fears, but they don't stop me. Um, and so I think stories give us the opportunity to help our clients to connect and see themselves in us. And when I tell the journey of how I couldn't get out of bed, but I was driven by this vision and I just got up every single day and gave it a crack and backed myself, it helps them to see that they can do it too.
Amazing. And even you just, I don't know the full story, but when you just mentioned that about your father, that hit me. And there is one pattern I see a lot, which is when we talk about our parents, then what happens is automatically the viewer or the listener is going to see you as a child, and a child is automatically vulnerable. So just talking about situations with your parents puts you in a perspective of vulnerability, which is way more approachable. You see a random person crying on the street, you may or may not approach them and try to comfort them. But a little child, if you have a heart, you will, or somebody will before you get there, because everybody wants to help the vulnerable, right? And that is something that, I do coach my clients on too, is like, if you want to get into a vulnerable space, talk about experiences with your parents, because everybody has some emotional connection to that experience. Even if they didn't have parents, they understand. Like, people who grew up like maybe in foster homes and stuff, that's even going to be more impactful to them because of the fact that it's something they never experienced, but emotionally they desire. So absolutely, talking about experiences in your childhood with your parents, especially your dad. I don't know what it is about that. Everybody has daddy issues, right? It's a thing. I and this is just what I know from looking at data, it's people just engage with that. Wow.
Yeah,
Now we're going a little bit deep here, aren't we?
we are.
And we are and what recently, and you don't have to share too much detail if you don't want to, but in the past, let's say 1 year from now going backwards, was there a time you made a mistake that you wish, like, oh gosh, I wish I could do that again, or something that you messed up? Because we all do, and in the tone of vulnerability, I think my listeners would appreciate hearing that even the top of the top performers mess up from time to time. uh, is there anything you'd be willing to share with us that's happened to you recently that you wish you could take back?
I wish I could take that. Oh goodness, I think that I definitely probably not having clarity on my brand tone. I definitely have felt how over the last 12 months, when I didn't really at times have a lot of clarity on my brand tone. I know that I've had flashes of posts come back because I've been so focused on just being myself, expressing it out into the world. There were times where I was a little bit too audacious with that and regretted what I said and felt like, oh goodness, I am having a vulnerability hangover. I've shared too much. People aren't taking me seriously. And I had people message me and be like, you're being taken in this way, and we don't think that's the way you want to be taken. And it was like, oh, for me, because I have a background of sacred sexuality, self expression, I really created my authentic brand, and there was different photos and posts of me doing things that in my world is like, this is self-expression, this is liberation, this is what we're standing for. And without sometimes them external mentors and their opinions, at that point, it was being taken a completely different way. And I felt a lot of shame after that, because I was like, oh goodness, I didn't have that extra mentorship to tell me that actually the everyday person is perceiving you in this other way. So I felt a lot of shame, and I shifted my brand again and again and again to ensure that my intention of what I was trying to express on my brand is actually being perceived in the way that I wanted. And I guess that's a blind spot of every content creator, is we have an intention, and yet we need a branding team to help us to ensure that we are actually conveying it in the same way. So I felt a lot of shame around that, but then I moved through that, and you've got to be in the arena, being okay with making public mistakes. I make them every single day, but that's the only way I can grow. And yeah, then you got to just love yourself through your public mistakes as well.
It's true. It's true. I think that the most awkward ones are when you like try to pretend it didn't happen, and everybody is like, "Who are you kidding?" Right? When you call yourself out, though, that then the audience loves you even more. Do you remember that video that went viral? I think it must have been CBS or MSNBC. It's when COVID first broke out. There's this newscaster, and he was broadcasting from his bedroom, and then in the middle of the broadcast, this interview, his kid comes wandering in the background. Right? Do you remember that? And then his other kid comes, and then the mother comes rushing in and like trying to pull them out. And the whole time, this guy is deadpan looking at the camera, pretending nothing's happening, and there's chaos in the background, and the mother is freaking out. And when I watched that, I thought to myself, this is just like people who are messing up, and they know they're messing up on social media, but they just like to pretend like nothing happened, like, oh no, it's not a thing, It's everybody. You're the only person you might fool is yourself. That's it.
That's right. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, I've had lots of interesting experiences. I had my puppy peeing in the background of a call once, and all different things like that. So yeah, you live and you learn.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, if somebody's just getting started, and I know you've got courses and you teach this stuff, but let's say that they haven't created content yet, and they've got a business, it's working, right? But they know they need to do it, but for some reason, maybe it's self-confidence, maybe it's time, maybe it's something else, but they're not creating content yet. How do you think they should get started? Like, what's the first steps they should take? What advice do you have for someone like that?
First step would be to create a meaningful vision of the impact and legacy you want to create over your lifetime. Okay, so what is that purposeful and profitable vision for your lifestyle, for your business, and for your message? And think 10 times the bigness that you're thinking today, because that's what's going to bring out the extraordinary expression that lives inside of you. So, first step, create your 10-year vision. Step two is start to actually be okay with tooting your own horn, standing out and being different. Start to look at other industry experts in your niche and start to go, what are the unique personality traits that are different for me? You may be, for example, I looked at Tony Robbins and at times felt insecure to him because I was different, but I wanted to do similar things. So I started to ask myself, what's the asset in my flaw or my insecurity? And I started to realize that I create deeply emotional, sensitive, heart experiences that help people to feel safer in who they are. Even though Tony's rah, 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 I am a little bit different, but I started to ask myself, what are the assets? What are the gifts? how does this benefit my audience and the outcomes that I can deliver them? And then start to showcase those parts of yourself in your content, and then find somebody who can give you that content strategy so you can start being yourself and getting paid to be you.
Wow. Wow. Every time I ask you for advice, you have it down pat, like, and no, you do. You've got it all organized, and it comes out as if you've taught this 10,000 times, which you probably have. Thank you for that. Thank you. Now, when it comes to content ideas, what's your go-to source? We have our own, internally, we have our own processes for helping people, and but then, to be honest, I think it with some people, when we share it with them, it works. And with some people, they struggle a bit more. They want a different format or something, or a different source. What works for you when you're planning stuff out? Or
What works
maybe
for
what do you
me
advise your
is,
clients on?
yeah. Where do you feel the most alive in the world? The most energized, the
Mm,
most alive? For me, it's a morning beach walk, looking at the sun rising, listening to the ocean, bare feet, listening to some Beyonce, Oprah. When you're in that state, bring the intention. What's the message I need to share today? With who? For what purpose? And how is this going to move the needle forward inside of themselves to take their next move so that they're closer to wanting to work with you? When you hold that
mm.
intention and you're in that state of bliss or your connection to soul and spirit, you will just download information. At that point, get out your phone, click voice audio, and just start literally either journaling or voice audio, dumping that stuff, doing videos, because that's when you're in, that energy of like your uniqueness, your authenticity. So think about that. Where do you feel most alive, and start channeling and trusting that internal voice and what it says, because from there you can put it in a Google shared drive and then deliver it to your content team, who will then polish it up, put it into the message, the structure, and you can maybe re-record it in a more professional setting, but at least you've got the right message that you're landing from that.
I love that. I love that. I love it simply because it's so opposite of, of everything else that I've been doing, and I need a different source. For us, it's a process. It's just like a checklist, and a structure. And what I needed to hear is something that's so left field that it gets me to start thinking completely differently about things. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And when you do this process, like for you, how do you do this every day? Go out for a walk on the beach? Is this once a week? Is this just whenever you feel like you need it?
Yeah, I've done it once a month. I've had like a content session with myself where I do it once a month and then batch all the content around one main sales and marketing activity or message for the month. Or you can do it every 7 days, 14 days. For me, I personally do it once a week, at the moment, because that's how I'm keeping my message super relevant. And I just want to say that once you've got the soul, the emotional, the intuition part, then stage
Mhm.
two is to look at the checklist and put it into them frameworks. That's what gets the best of both worlds. Like Albert Einstein said, our current thinking, our current problems are a byproduct of our current thinking. So why this process works really well is you are tapping into the subconscious. You're tapping into the imagination state, which is where all the biggest thinkers, visionaries, and innovators brought their ideas from.
It makes so much sense. Now, we're coming up close to the end of our hour together. And what I want to do is just spend the last few minutes talking about, if people want to work with you, how would they find you? Or what kind of people should be reaching out to you, and have the best results working with you? Let's describe that perfect person right now. So if that person is listening, guys, there's probably a link down below. If it's YouTube, in the description. If it's listening to the podcast, then you're going to find that inside the show notes. Who is this person that you want to help?
The person's often making over $25,000 a month, and they want to learn how to get to whatever income level is going to give them the fun, the freedom, the fulfillment that they want in life. Now, they want to do it differently. Okay, so they want to do it differently to the business coaches and strategists who have kind of fit them into a framework and asked them to mimic and copy the process that gave them success, and they want to start to have the confidence and audacity to stand more of their unique expression, and learn how to build a business model out of it. So, our first step is we help people to create one luxury offer to get them to 7 figures, and then we add two others that get them to 8 figures. Often we can do this over 3 years. Now, not everybody will want that, and that's why we start the process by helping you to understand what's the life vision that's going to give you the most meaning and fulfillment. And I help you to make that life vision happen without sacrificing your value system or your authenticity along the way. So really, it's like if you're wanting to have more fun, make more money, then a mantra I say is the more fun I'm having, the more money and impact I'm creating. And if you're starting to feel like, oh, business is repetitive, I'm drained, I'm bored, I want to do some like freaking epic stuff. I want to like do it differently. The next 12 months, I want to shake shit up really. Then what I say to people is that I'm the mentor you come to have a lot of let's fucking go moments. Okay, so it's about leaning and feel to your expression, your capacity, your offers, and just having an absolute time of your life every single step of the way.
That's amazing. Now, this might be a short answer from you, but what's the kind of person who need not apply?
Oh, somebody who hates money. If you hate money, you don't think money, and also if you don't really buy into spirituality, like if you don't buy into spirituality, if business is simply a financial transaction, it's only about profit. It's all about standing for profits and purpose. Another thing is if you're yeah, if that would be the main thing. Yeah.
That pretty much sums it up. That's so cool. Guys, I want to say, if you're listening to this up to the end, thank you for sticking with us. But also, every person that comes on this show, the reason why you're listening and the reason why so many people have subscribed in a short period of time, and this is my theory, is because I only bring people here who are actually making money, at least $1 million a year. I think, Samantha, if you don't mind sharing, is it like the mid 7 figures, 8 figures? How are you doing in the coaching business right now as far as your revenue?
Yeah, so we're cracking over $100,000 per month at the moment, which
Okay.
is really exciting. And we've got our clients doing that as well. So for us,
Wow.
we've been helping people to get to 100,000 months within the first 30 days of joining us, and we talk about how our blueprint was to get there too.
That's amazing. And guys, that's why it's worth listening to the guests on this podcast, because they're the people who are sharing the stuff that actually works. There are so many people out there. You look through their news feeds and you think that they're, the Pope, the Buddha, or Gandhi, or Jesus Christ, because everything they say sounds so good and clever, but don't listen to them as much as I mean, what they're saying could be great, but it's not the same as hearing perhaps the same thing from somebody who's actually done it. So that message is there at the right time, at the right place for you, because of the fact that they are where you want to be. I'm going to steal I don't know who said this first, but and you brought up Alex Hormozy a few times a minute ago, but the last person I heard it from is him, and he said, "Don't take advice from somebody who is not making the kind of money that you want to be making." And I think that's important. I think that if you want to be making $1 million or more in your business, then you want to listen to people like Samantha. And so I do encourage you, click the link below. I think that you're going to be able to find where, the inroad into finding about more about her. And if you want to get in touch with her. Samantha, do you have any last words of wisdom for people when it comes to content creation, making money online, or anything?
I've seen what you can help people with, and I think it's a real deal. And I love the humility, the generosity, the down to earth nature of who you are. And I think that that's one of the things that is actually not spoken about, but it's what I really value when I'm looking at who to work with. Like, look for people that have down to earth values that you stand for, and then also make sure that they're competent. And so, yeah, I love seeing that in your brand and how you shine and express that out too.
Well, thank you very much. There is a place somewhere on social media for middle-aged Japanese men. Thankfully. uh,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you so much for being on the show, guys. Thanks for sticking with us. And if you do want to see more like this, then comment down below what was your favorite part about this. And don't forget, absolutely don't forget to go check out the links below for Samantha. Find her on social media. And especially if you're just listening, you're going to want to see who this person is, because She really is representing her brand right. And I think she's doing an amazing job. Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you.